It's mystery envelope day. Oh, I can't wait to see what everyone does with their pieces. Hello and welcome back to the Makers with Heart Mystery Envelope Challenge for August. And this month I got to send all of the wonderful goodies out. And it's funny, everything that I sent them, I did not ask them to actually use any of it. It was kind of just a jumping off point because I fell in love with this stamp set. It's the it's been one of those days stamp set, D2178, and I will have that listed below the video if you want to know any of the supplies if they're still available. But I fell in love with it, and so I stamped all the sentiments, I cut out one of each of the critters, and then I also sent some die cuts for them. And I did this because I want to focus on and highlight our stamps and thin cuts and kind of go back into our stashes to see what we have. So I have these photos, and if you're not farming at all, you may not realize, but this is kind of the flipper foot that came off the back of the baler. And this, when it comes off, means that the bales don't fall into the field the correct way so that the bale wagon can come along and pick them up. And then this is the baler, and what's on top here is one of the rake teeth. And so for doing hay, you actually rake it a couple times, and one of the rake teeth fell off the rake, and I picked it up in the baler, which means that I also got to change a shear pin, and that's a whole nother story. But for me, I just figured these two pictures with kind of some critters that are also having kind of a flustered day would be perfect for a scrapbook layout. And then I went into my stamp stash. Like I said, I wanted that to be something we focus on. So I picked out the background element stamp. That's always fantastic. It has, this kind of look like grass to me, but it has so many different elements. I thought it would be good. And because we were on a farm, I have multiple stamp sets that are country life or farm themed. So we have country life, country born, my farm, and down on the farm. And I'm not sure yet where I'm going to use these or if I'm going to use them, but these are things that I pulled out from my stash. The other thing that I did is I went into my papers, and this is from an old paper pack called Backcountry, and I thought it was great. So I looked up the colors in it. This is actually Rustic Trail, and I don't have any more papers, but I had these sticky sheets, and I thought, oh, how cool, kind of the flowers with the little critters, and the colors worked really well with this Backcountry paper. So then I pulled this from yesterday and today, and I think either one of these is going to work, both sides of that. And I originally pulled this for this side, but this is from the Aurora collection. And so I went, looked at what all the colors were, and for stamps, I'm going to go ahead and use avocado, cinnamon, sapphire, and toffee. Our balers are New Holland balers, which is red. If you're involved with the farm community at all, you know everything has a color. But I thought the cinnamon would help pull out some of the warm tones of that red. So I am going to clear off my desk and see if I can find a inspiration layout and get started. So I found this sketch on Pinterest, and unfortunately I do not know who to give credit for this inspiration. So you can see in the upper right corner what I'm kind of working with. And what I did, because of the orientation of my two photos, is I turned the sketch 90 degrees counterclockwise. So you'll kind of see where they have the hearts going around the three sides. I have the brown spotted paper going around the two sides and the bottom. So again, I just rotated the sketch 90 degrees, and I'm using it how it works for my photos. So I'm just kind of auditioning. I cut all the pieces. My border here in the brown is a 3/4 inch frame, and then the green wood grain I cut off 1.5 inches on one side and then 3/4 inch on the other side, actually just a titch over it, because I plan to go ahead and rough up the edges. Just, it's one of those days, farming is messy. I kind of thought having frayed edges on the paper just kind of work with the whole feel of this layout. And with this sketch here, I don't know if you can see, but there's a whole bunch of banner ends and different papers coming out from the side. And I was trying to see if I was going to use some of the sentiments on the bottom along with some of the papers for banner ends. Spoiler, I don't end up doing any of that, but I'm just trying to kind of get a direction to see where I want to put my journaling, how that's going to work. I don't have a lot to say other than to just describe what's going on in the photos and kind of bring in that theme or title of it's just one of those days. So now I'm going to color in my critters here, and I had asked the Makers with Heart in the instructions to highlight this, and it didn't have to be these critters. It could be anything they wanted. They could use shimmer brushes, markers, metallic markers, whatever they wanted. I am using the ink colors that are from my papers with the water brush, because then I know that I'm going to have the critters match or coordinate with my papers. Using the water kind of doesn't give it as intense of a color, but it's a shade of those colors that are in the papers, and so I just know that it's going to work. And what I do is I squish my pad just a little bit to get some ink on the lid, and then use the water brush to pick that up. I don't want to dilute my ink pads themselves, so you saw that I took that blue, it's called shop towel, and I cut it all up in small pieces, but I took a little piece of that to take the water off the lid so that I wasn't diluting my ink pads. And now here there's all these leaves and twigs and nuts and stuff that's in the fur of all of these little critters. So I'm just using the toffee and the avocado ink to color those in. And I used a Sharpie fine point black pen to bring the eyes out. And I just darken the eyes and the nose on the fox. So now I'm going to take this desert sand mixed with the toffee, and because I'm using the lids as kind of my palette, my mixing plate, I will definitely need to make sure to clean those out so I don't mix any colors. But for me, I'm not a fussy color person. The medallion arts or the adult coloring books that everybody loved and people knew I was creative, so I received several of them as gifts. I have re-gifted those because I may sit and quill flowers for days. I will not sit and color for days. I like effective and quick, I guess, but I'm okay spending time on it, you know, if it's effective, but I'm not going to shade in all the little cheeks and the feet and the contour of the wing next to the body, and that is just not me. I will go in and do some accents, and I did that on the fox and the squirrel. The bluebird, I'm just kind of leaving it lighter. I didn't want to bring in too dark of that sapphire color because I just like the color of the bird that way. And so I'm orienting these so the squirrel is looking to the left, so he's going to be on the right side of the page to draw your eye into the photos. The opposite is true of my little bluebird friend there. I did send these leaves to everybody, and so I'm just crinkling them or folding them in half to give them some volume. And my title is just going to be just one of those days, because on the farm, you know, you're going to have breakdowns. I know I'm going to have to change shear pins. I mean, all of these things are just a part of the working life on a farm. But the days that you don't have to do that, there's just some more joy into it. Or the days that the shear pin changes easily and you don't have to spin the flywheel 16 times to get the bolt hole to line up, you know, those are good days too. So I'm using that Rustic Trails sticker sheet that I showed you earlier. And I'm just trying to pull different pieces. If you look at my inspiration sketch, remembering that we're turning it 90 degrees counterclockwise, there's a little banner you can kind of see. It says just beloved or something. And so I was trying to fill in that space to the side of the photo, and nothing seemed to work for me. So I knew I wanted to do a tag under my photo, and I actually popped up with foam tape that baler photo, or the rake tooth baler photo. They're both photos of the baler, just different ends. One's the receiving end, one's the giving out end. And then I added some thread. This is just the DMC floss along the bottom to kind of give some balance with that red tones, but I needed one more set of the red, so I went ahead and just did a little nest of that thread up there under my bluebird. So what I'm doing is I'm creating clusters of embellishments. It's almost like all of the components make up one embellishment. So you have the tag and the string and the critter along with the sequence, and it all becomes one element. And so I have 3 of those on the page. I did put the file folder tag up there, and that was more just to break up the lines of the papers as they're going across. So this is it. This came together so quickly. On my tag, I went back to my old farm stamp sets and I stamped the front of a tractor, and it has to be orange. We were in Alice Chalmers' farm, and although it didn't really matter to me, tractor color matters. I'm not sure why, but tractor color matters to farmers. So we were an orange tractor family. And then I did go ahead with that avocado ink and stamp the whole scene of the farm on the back of the tag. Not that I expect it to be seen much, but at least it filled in that white area. So here you can see I roughed up the edges of the photos of every paper. Those critters are just adorable in there. Crazy. It's just been one of those days kind of life. There's a playlist below with all the other Makers with Hearts creations, and all the products used are listed below there as well. Blessings.